So I guess, I mean, I throw that out just as a thought. I mean, I guess what I was envisioning was, independent of who you are, if you're going to be at that board level, that you're talking about a $25,000 a year commitment.
I thought that's what we agreed last time. That's my remembering.
That was our going in position. We said we would finalize it at this meeting, but we started off with that. And that's why I'm glad you brought it up again, because that's what I recall in my notes. $25,000 for three-year commitment, and that anybody that was part of the 12 to 15 as a founding board member would be that level.
Yeah, that's what we agreed on.
I think that's what I think makes sense.
That's what I went to Jefferson Lab with, and they said they can do it.
They can or cannot?
It's a federal lab, so
Yeah, I mean, I love. Yeah.
we don't have accounts for this kind of stuff.
So, no,
Take that
Should
as a
we-
baby.
should we consider,
I haven't met Don yet. All right, Don, we need to add you to Chick Flaps.
Say again, sir?
We need to add you to the Chick
Yeah,
Flaps
but-
presentation.
yeah, you should go there.
I don't always get what I ask for. Ask Dave.
Well, I think what's going to happen, you're talking about $2.5 million if you got 10 players. So what are you going to do with
No,
2?
25,000.
25,000.
25,000, so 250,000.
Since we're talking about, should we consider 2 tiers? I know some of the logic that industry versus nonprofits, profit versus nonprofit. Is it?
It's conceivable, we talked about it at the
Yeah.
last meeting, that we might consider having a tiered gridded approach that recognizing the difference between for-profit and nonprofit
Yeah.
organizations such as universities. That was brought up. We didn't finalize it, we just brought it up.
So-
And that's why
So given that, maybe if I said 15,000 per year for nonprofit and 25 for profit. I don't know. Obviously, it gives us less resources to do what we want to do, but the commitment, I think, is very important, what you suggested, 3 to 5 years, I would say, because in order this entity really does something, it takes time. It's not going to happen in 1 year time. But
Right,
if we can get the commitment, longer commitment,
right.
rather than, that might be it.
So the one thing that, I don't know, I may be naive, but I don't really love the idea of, gathering this, 300,000 or whatever we are going to get, and basically use it to pay an executive director. And then I would like to actually see something done with that money. I mean, like, you actually can rent a facility for a few, for 50,000, 60,000. You can actually start doing something, as opposed to start talking about doing something, which is what you would get if you would use that money for an executive director.
So let me actually have some experience in that. I think what Barry is, I agree with Barry actually. There need to be somebody who is full-time
Right.
pushing this idea and actually raising more money. And that would be one of the duties of this executive director, getting the funding for, say, research side, the activities that we are interested in.
Well, but in reality, definitely for us, who's going to do putting together proposals? It's not going to be a executive director. It's going to be you and I and
I agree,
Yeah.
but what, I think, my feeling is, I suppose what Barry meant, I think it would be very difficult if we don't have somebody who's really full-time dedicated to this entity.
And there's a lot. Now, if you look at the list of items we put together, the 10 or so, 12 items, I mean, there's a lot on there,
Sure.
and there's a lot that's beyond research. I mean, the workforce development
Right.
piece, and
Yeah,
other types of things. I mean, I think you need somebody that can be, looking at the entity as a whole. The research element being one component of it.
Well, and I think part of what we were thinking was that it would not just be for the executive director, but for fundraising, for
Yeah.
Staff,
Sure.
for facilities, for other entities, for other activities that were being conducted in line with the priorities that we gave them. So this is not just for one salary. But now let's stop for a second. If indeed we go forward in the manner in which we're thinking about going forward, which has staged, we're not gonna get 300K to begin with.
Possibly not.
I mean, if we,
No,
let's
no,
say we
I-
take your 15,
I'm-
if I take your 15 per
I know,
year,
I know.
and let's assume,
Well,
you wanna assume it's 6 and 6, I mean, that's 90, and 6 is 125.
No, I know. I'm not,
For 150, that's 240,000, I don't, you know.
yeah. Well, the other option we have, I haven't really gone to the higher ups per se to ask. We can ask. We can always ask for it and try to see. Obviously, we have to sell it effectively because they have to appreciate what it brings to the university. And I believe my feeling is that Virginia Tech, there is given interest. There is, I've talked to a lot of higher ups who are very interested in this activity, and they're looking into not only nuclear education, they are looking at whole college or whole university as a whole. What can bring such an entity. So I think, but the only thing is still is an issue. So why should we give 25K?
Right.
You know, to
I mean,
this?
and
And
that's,
we can ask.
Well, the real question is though, if we propose a criteria, are you suggesting that we adjust the criteria based on the response to your ask?
No, we
Okay.
have to decide.
That's what I'm trying to understand what
No,
you're
that's not I don't think that's a good idea.
Agreed. Glad to hear that.
Just quick.
We gotta decide what to do. Yeah.
Just a thought, would there be a position where if it's 25 for 3 years, or you give higher ed the opportunity, if you had a 5-year commitment, that the yearly was maybe 20 years instead of 25 or 15, does that cause more problems?
Longer versus,
We're
rates.
talking about maybe 5 years, 15 is 75, and 3 years of 25 is 75, and that has some.
Was another, that just tossing out there I'm not sure, you still have the.
I had that as a note, it's good that you would think of that. But if I take what you said about part of the value equation was professorships, scholarships, research and development, and those are very important aspects for any university, right?
No, we really can come up with those things.
Well, I mean, and
No issues.
and that's kind of the thing. I mean, I know that BCU, let me just say, I haven't spoken with anybody, so we had an internal discussion among ourselves and with Matt, Conrad, but I mean, so yes, BCU is absolutely committed to nuclear education, but we are having trouble to finding the money for SICAM. So what? So we are not part of SICAM because we couldn't find the money. So what? We are actually going to find more money for something else? I don't know. Maybe we
They're
will,
asking
maybe
for
we
so-
won't.
So
I don't know.
Commonwealth Center for Advanced Manufacturing.
Right.
So, I think you said you weren't crazy about the idea of hiring a director to do the work, but,
I wasn't.
so again, what's the alternative? Have you thought about an alternative model?
For an alternative model, I mean, so what I had thought, and again, you guys have a better experience with this, is for example, DCU could provide a person that would be 50% of this person's time focused on this. So that would be our contribution. So we are going to pay 50%, I mean, the salary of somebody, 50% of whose time will be devoted to this. For example, that's an idea. And I mean, not to say that anybody is going
And the
to
consortium does the work,
Right,
as
exactly.
opposed to the executive.
Right, so this person would be a surrogate, I guess, of an executive director. It wouldn't be an executive director, it would be like a secretariat support or executive secretary of the consortium or something like that. So obviously would have, the committee, the consortium would have to tell this person what to do, but to some level of degree this person could run on their own.
Would this person be like an admin or a student, or what were you thinking?
I was thinking on an admin type person, so a secretary or an admin assistant or something like that, to find 50% of the time of that person devoted to this kind of thing.
If that were the case, though, would you agree we would still need some kind of professional position like an executive director to coordinate all the activities, or
I
not?
mean, I think that an executive director at some point will be needed, but I don't know that that was the first thing that I would do. not to say, I mean, this is my opinion, and again, you guys may know better.
Well,
But I think that at some point, somebody, I mean, when things start getting to a level where you really need to have a person being the main interface, then at some point that person will be needed. But I don't know that I would put this person first. I would actually get something done first.
I would tend to agree. I'm not sure executive director is the right term, and I think maybe we're misleading it. My thought was simply that we have so many activities that are already going on, that we would need to coordinate those. We need to integrate what's happening with this consortium board into whatever else is happening around it that is important and significant for it to have a voice in. Whether it's American Nuke Society, CSIS, or other activities, someone has to know what it is that's going on, find a way to get to that information and bring that together. Back to the consortium board to make suggestions and advice, keep the minutes, keep the coordination, work with the quote-unquote volunteers that are on this consortium board from the respected organizations to keep it moving forward, because if it doesn't, everybody will be overcome by their other jobs.
Yeah, and I think that, I mean, I'm not, my view is that we need a full-time person dedicated to it, whether that's called an executive director or
I agree.
whether it's just somebody that's making things happen.
and has to know things.
Yeah, it has to be, I think, and I know exactly what Sam is saying, and I agree with 100%, but I think this position has to be somebody that understands the industry, understands nuclear science technology, speaks the language relatively well, understands the interfaces between the policy issues and the technical issues, that can help identify mechanisms for going forward and getting progress, demonstrable
It's
progress.
not just a manager, it's somebody that really can make
Facilitator,
things happen.
coordinator, integrator, I don't know what you call it. We call it ED even though there's no staff per se underneath it, except of course to the extent that some of the universities may, in lieu of something else, if everyone agrees, to provide some kind of administrative support. Or maybe in addition to, maybe they don't pay the full 15 a year, and I'm only throwing out the numbers you gave me, sir. They do like 5 a year or 10 a year, and they also provide this. I don't know if there's a mix for the nonprofits, but arguably for the profit organizations, if we're going to be successful, we're going to have to ask for cash only from those entities, and I think that's what you were saying, Barry, that should be our priority.
Can you do a whole lot with 300?
Yeah. No. That's correct.
Because you can chew up salary, legal fees, any number of things. 300,000. Maybe what makes some sense, and I'll be happy to volunteer to maybe work with Randy on this, is take a shot at what a budget would need to look like. We're not going to pay $295,000 for an executive director. Okay, we're not going to do that.
Not if I can help it, but yes.
But you're not going to get one for $50,000.
Agreed.
No, that's not good.
And you're going to have, unless somebody provides office space, you got lodging, where is it domiciled? Who's going to provide some kind of administrative support for this person? Who's going to provide some IT support for this person? So I think what may make some sense is to figure out what we're going to need if you go with that model as opposed to, say, a volunteer model.
Well, I mean, I wasn't saying.
And then kind of work back from that and see what kind of
We just
amount we
don't-
got to call it.
I understand, we just don't have a lot of time to do that if we're going to make some progress. Our next meeting is in July, and I would like us to have made enough progress to report to the full committee as to what we're doing, how we're establishing that. So that's a little over a month away.
Like on the timeline side of things, just a reminder that the Code of Virginia says that the consortium should be established by January the 1st of this year, so we're already 6 months behind. I think it'd be great if at the July 23rd meeting we can say, hey, we've got commitments from XYZ corporations, we're got no's from ABC, and we're on second stage with these next people's. Should be kind of our timeline goals. I think that there was some back of the envelope budgeting done by Gennaro. Unfortunately, went out, and it was that